or good afternoon, everyone. My name is Maarten Strijbers. I am the product owner for Nfield Reporting, and I will be presenting some new features we introduced the last month. The agenda for today is that we will do a short recap on the fieldwork reports that are embedded in the manager, and then we will narrow down in what we call the data transformations, where you can actually select and change what you want into the fieldwork reports. For those of you that are unfamiliar with the fieldwork reports at all, in April this year, we launched the fieldwork reports, where you can, without any data processing, check the progress of fieldwork from hour one, as soon as you uploaded your survey and the first test or actually live interviews are coming in, you can see your results. And you can share these if you want with your stakeholders. So I will give a short demo of that. Let me open a browser. I am logged into the manager. And once you selected a survey, you can see on the left a tab called Reports, and it has three sections. One is Design and Transformations, that we will go later on. And one is called Power BI, and it will host one card and report links, which we haven't created, but this will be in the demo. There will be a button, which is gray initially, that will activate the report data. And once you have an activated report, you can refresh the data every 15 minutes to get the latest data from our systems. If we go to the report, you can see it has 4 tabs. One is the Introduction tab, where you can see your successful interviews and your dropped outs and your screened outs. You can see your interview time. You can see when the latest refresh was of the data, and you can see the progress of the total number of interviews. And you can see the spread of interview time. We have another tab for the drop-off. It will display all the questions in the questionnaire from the first in the script until the last in the script. And it will display how many participants answered anything to these questions. And on the right side, you see a filters pane. And for example, if you set the response status to the dropped out and apply this filter, you can see that for the dropped outs, we have one. He answered the first question and then dropped out and didn't answer the second question. You can imagine that for a larger survey, this will be very helpful to see if there's a sudden drop-off somewhere in the script, or that you see a gradual drop-off, which would be more normal. We also have a quick cross tables, where you can select the questions from your questionnaire. In the rows, you can select the questions from your questionnaire or fields from the sample in your header, which are all the same. So this is not a good there. And you can select either the straight counts or the column percentages. You can then, if you want, export this table to Excel and use this for further reporting. And the last tab is the verbatim tab. If you have an open-ended question, you can select them here, and it will display all the open-ended answers. This is especially helpful if you want to have some first indications for some more qualitative surveys. Once you have your report ready, you can, if you want, share them. There is a share button on the report card, and it will ask you to set an expiration time. So you can, if you want to have a quick one and you don't want to fire and forget, you can set it to be valid for 1 day, or you can set it valid for like 15 days. You will give it a label, reporting academy, and then you set create the link. And you will see that in the card below, there will now be a link. If you click on the orange text and select the button get link, it will copy the link and you can send this to any of your stakeholders, whether inside your organization or maybe outside. And they can see the full report as you can see it. Please note that this link does not require logging in to the manager. So the one that you send it to doesn't have to have an account. It also means that if he shares it with someone else or you share it with the wrong person, there is no way to unallow this one person to use the link, but you can invalidate the link by going into the link, into the label again and click invalidate. And then select yes. And now this link will no longer be working. So if you feel that you've shared it and it ended up with the wrong person, or you accidentally sent it to someone you didn't mean it for, go ahead and invalidate the link. Then there is a refresh button. I'm not going to press it right now because we will use it further on in the demo. And you can only refresh once every 15 minutes. And I might need it before that time. So there are some rules and limitations for the fieldwork. A first activation might take a little longer. You can refresh the data every 15 minutes. Once you have refreshed it, we will refresh it for you for 7 days, every night. So if you come in the office in the morning, you have reasonably recent data. Once you have not interacted with it, so if you have not done any refresh yourself, we will stop refreshing it after 7 days because we assume you are no longer interested. If after 6 days you refresh it manually once, the 7 days start again. At the moment, matrix questions, all questions in repeat loops and subroutines are excluded from the report. We are working on making this available, but for now we kept them out. We show only the most recent 10,000 interviews, as this is meant for fieldwork progress reporting. And we have some projects in our system which go into the hundreds of thousands of interviews. That takes too much resources from us. So we show only the most 1,000, which should be enough to manage your progression of your fieldwork. The link you share is public in a sense that it doesn't require any login. It is, however, a next to impossible to guess link. So if someone wants to find your report by brute forcing combinations, that will not be possible. And you can always invalidate this sharing link if you feel this is needed. So this was a quick summary on the reports as they have been for the last few months. Are there any questions for this?
Yes, a couple of questions came in. Well, you showed the link sharing of the report. Well, there was a question coming, if there's any possibility to share that report with a client. Perhaps can you share anything about for who the link is mostly intended, or is there no difference between an internal or an external party?
From a technical perspective and from the link part, there is no difference. So you can share it with anyone you want. So you decide on who you share it with. You can also create two links, one for internal use and one for external use, where if you revoke the external use, internal users will not have any issues. But you can use this from outside your own office, basically.
Okay, thanks. A second question was whether there was any chance to use it on your own Power BI reports?
No, this is on the roadmap for us. It's actually what we're working on right now, is to make the data that it's driving these reports to make it available for your own consumption. ETA somewhere in the next year.
Okay, thank you. It's clear. Can you also share with the panel partners so they can monitor fieldwork? As I understand, it is possible. However, I have to refresh the report manually because the system only refreshes after 7 days, it says.
It doesn't refresh after 7 days. It refreshes every night for the next 7 days in a row. Or you have to refresh it yourself every once in a while. I think it's very valuable that you first know what's going on before you actually have your partner have to detect if there's any issues.
Okay, there's a follow-up question to that coming in. If you forget to refresh, then after 7 days it won't refresh, as you said. So in this case, are we getting any notifications?
No.
Maybe I can add in relationship with a panel partner, because we find that mostly the panel partners are interested in to what extent the quota is being filled. Quota is not part of the fieldwork report yet, at least, but we also have now in the Nfield, we have the role of the quota manager. So this is a typical role for a panel partner where they can enter Nfield, only see the quotas, adapt if needed, but cannot see anything else of the survey. So maybe that's also something that you may want to look at. Maarten, back to you. There's another question coming in. Is it possible to combine a KW and KP project in one report automatically?
No, this is on a survey basis. Again, if we are opening up the data behind this, you are completely free to consume data from multiple surveys into one report. But the fieldwork reports are on survey basis.
Okay, these were all the questions, Maarten.
Okay. Then we continue with the set of transformations. And you might already have seen a few tabs. We have two different sets of transformations. One is basically selecting the data that you want into your report, and the second one is manipulating the data you want in your report. Let's start with the selection of the fields. You can select any question or sample field, profile fields, to be included in your report. By default, all the questions and all the sample fields are included. This does not make it very clear to read at times. So if you just want to share a portion, which is most important with the client, you can actually do this. Please note that you are not deleting data. So if you uncheck a field, it's not gone. You can always add it in later on. And it will make your reports much more easier to understand for your stakeholders. So let's do a quick demo. Under the reports for every survey, there is a design tab and a transformation tab. The design tab is where you actually select the fields for your report. And you can see now both questions. This is a very long, large questionnaire have been selected. And if we look at profile, I added some boring names, but I can uncheck field 1 and 2 from the profile information and save it. And for the questions, I only am interested in Q20, so I unselect Q30. And if I go to the report now, you can see that for now, the fields are still in because I haven't refreshed the report. So before any transformation is applied, you need to refresh the report. And it's now refreshed. And it's done. And you see under questions, only Q20 is available. And under header fields, only field 3 and 4 are available. And this will help you greatly in making this more understandable for your stakeholders. This might be a bit redundant, but are there any questions on this?
Well, there's one question coming in. I will read it out. Sometimes we see that some of the filters are mixed on a cross table. For example, when we look out for age categories, we see that it includes male and female too. What is the reason? How can we fix that? But I assume this is like a good introduction into the next session of the presentation, right?
Yes, I think so. So probably this will be answered in the next step. And the next step is the question transformations. We keep every version of a script. Sometimes you don't get your scripts correct in the first time, and you need to make some changes. And sometimes when making the changes, you actually make a mistake. So there is a mismatch between versions. For example, if you have a Q1 gender, it has answers male and female. And in the next version, you accidentally, you added a question, but you named it Q1, and that's now age group. You will have mixed answers in the report for Q1, because the question number is the unique key on which we group the versions. So the transformations are meant to solve a mismatch between of the script. You can relabel and lock all the question texts and labels, and locking them, it means it will apply to all previous versions and future versions of this question that come in through scripts. You can split versions from one group to a new group, and you can merge versions. And please let me demo this, because that might make it a little clearer. I took a new script or a new survey. It's the same as we have. So how many NIPO academies have you attended? And do you think you will use the fieldwork reports? And now my client came in saying, okay, this looks nice and all, but first I want to have an introduction question where I first say hello in the questionnaire before people need to answer questions. Okay. I script something like this, and I upload it to I upload my new questionnaire. I save the changes, and I paste the new questionnaire. And then I see that I have done something slightly silly. Because now I have a Q10, a Q30, and a Q30. And what I have done is I can open the script, And I added the new intro question, and I named it Q10. And in my previous version, Q10 was how many NIPO academies have you attended? So now they're all mixed, and I shifted the Q20, and it's now Q30, and it's all mixed, which means that in the reports, and of course, we can't see it in the report because we have no complete with it yet. So first, let's do a test link. Welcome to this scenario. This is the new intro question, and this is the question as we had it. Yes, of course, I will use the fieldwork reports. And I hit refresh. And now we see how many NIPO academies have you attended? We see a Q20, do you think you will use fieldwork reports? You see a Q20, how many NIPO academies have you attended? And a Q30, do you think you will use the fieldwork reports? So we need some way to actually fix this, because this doesn't look like anything. So let's first start with Q10. We can go to the version history, and we can see that there is only one version of Q10. Q20, we can see that there is actually two versions of Q20. This is how many NIPO academies have you attended, and do you think you will use the fieldwork reports? So let's first start with fixing this in separating these into two different questions. So we select one, and we select split. And we can see now we have a Q, the normal one, how many NIPO academies have you attended, and a Q20 split one is, do you think you will use the fieldwork reports? So now the two colliding have been split, and you can have a clearer view on what's going on. But still, we might need to combine these again to have it properly reported. So we take the Q20 split, we go to the version history, we can see that it's only for version 1. We select this version and we select merge, and we are going to merge it with Q30. And it has been merged. If I go to the version history of Q30, we can see that it has actually now two the same questions, and they are bundled into the same question, both versions. And we can do the same for Q10. We merge this with Q20, and now everything has been nicely solved. Unfortunately, I cannot prove this is working within the time. We need slightly 10 minutes. But please assume that the result will be is that you have a Q20 and a Q30 in the quick cross tables, which have combined the wrongly assigned questions. Please remind me that we might, at the end of the demo, go back here so you can see that it actually worked. Another thing you can do, let's go back to an example, is relabeling your questions. So again, you click on the orange text, and you can also select lock, which means that these texts will apply to all the previous and future versions of this question. So even if a new script is coming in with Q20, how many NIPO Academy CCs because I typo have you attended? It will be the good proper text that you wanted. But you can also have your own text. So what to make of this? Let's remove the typo and let's give it a label. Academies attended. We save it. And let's call this one report use. Once a question has a label, the Power BI report, and of course this one we need to wait for the refresh as well. The Power BI report will pick up the label instead of the question text. So how many NIPO Academies have you attended will be academies attended. This is all to make it more readable. For example, if you have the aided awareness, most of your clients will know what aided awareness is and they don't want to read how many of the below brands, if any, do you know by name. So we have a summary. The relabeling and locking applies to all versions of the question. A split moves of a question into a new artificial questions indicated by the SP split prefix. A merge moves a version from one question to another. And you can merge into a split question if ever needed. However, you should not merge questions from the same version into one. We can do the same for answers. Again, this is to solve a mismatch between versions of the script. It works exactly the same as the question level transformations. And you can only merge answers within the same question. Let's do a demo on this. So I will take a classic example. Say you have a question on following brands. Do you know, if only by name? It is awareness. And if you go into the question by clicking on the orange text, you can also select the modify categories. And you now have a menu that's for the answer categories. And you can see code 125. And what we have actually done is I already uploaded a second version of this. And I can show you. And we had one version with 3 answers categories and one version with 5 answer categories. And we made a slight mistake. So in the first version, we see answer code 1, Coca-Cola, answer code 2, Dr. Pepper, answer code 2, Pepsi, answer code 3, Fanta, answer code 4, Pepsi, and answer code 5, Schweppes. So what we've done, we actually accidentally inserted Fanta and Pepper in the center of the list, and we shifted Pepsi to the end. And this will become clear if we go to transformations. We go to modify categories again and Coca-Cola, and we go to the version history, and we can see that one in version 1 was and in version 2 was Coca-Cola, which is fine. If we go to answer code 2, Dr. Pepper, and see that answer code 2 in version 1 was actually Pepsi. And in version 2, we inserted Dr. Pepper inside the list alphabetically. And answer code 2 in version 2 of the questionnaire is now Dr. Pepper, which is obviously not good. So again, we can select Pepsi, and we can select split. So in our data, answer code 2 will be exclusively Dr. Pepper. Answer code 3, version history. In version 1, it was Schweppes, and in version 2, it's now Fanta. But we have answer code 5, Schweppes, which only exists in version 2. So what we can do is we go to Fanta, we go to version history, we select the V1, and we merge it with V5 of Schweppes. And to do it properly, we will merge the split of Pepsi with code 4, Pepsi. And we have now code 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they should all be the same codes. So we can go to, before I do that, I don't like this name. Let's make this Pepper. And his name is Pepsi Cola because the client wanted it like this. You can also edit the labels. And just to verify, I have not reloaded the report right now. You can see that the answers, we still have 2 different labels for answer category 2. So we now will refresh the report. And of course, this always takes longer than you would want with a demo. And we're done. You can see now that answer code 2 is exclusively Dr. Pepper. Answer code 3 is always Fanta. Answer code 4 is always Pepsi Cola, with 2 answers. And answer code 5 is Schweppes. So we have actually solved some mistakes and mismatches between the versions of the questionnaire. So a short summary, again, for the answer label, relabeling and locking applies to all previous and future versions of this answer. A split moves a version of an answer into a new artificial category, again, with the SP of split prefix. A merge moves a version of an answer into an existing category. And let me restate this, if you need any transformations, you have broken some very basic rules of research scripting. We could expand these functionality much more, but for now we leave it as it is. That means that if you broke some rules on having proper codes for brands and applying them logically throughout the versions, that should be your first way to do it. And we have some limited ways to actually restore your data, as I demoed. Oh, before we go to the final remarks, it's a good time to go for a round of questions, I think.
Yes, well, there was one question coming in, whether it is possible to allow the stakeholder to select the questions or do any of the transformations.
If the stakeholder has no access to the manager, then no. We are currently thinking of and working to have some roles in the Nfield manager, where someone can log in and only see and manipulate the reports. So that would allow for some manipulations. But if you want to use those open and shared links, then the stakeholder cannot do this, no.
Thanks. Oh, there's another question coming in. Is there a possibility to show a warning if any label is changed or highlight the option which has changed?
We don't have this feature. We now got this question twice, so I'm thinking of placing this on the roadmap because it's actually a good argument. But for now, we don't have any indication if there is, if there are have been changes in labels or text.
Okay, thanks. There's another question coming in, which literally states, can we check the version info in the U file? I think it refers to different questionnaire versions.
If you have not written the version in the U file somewhere, then you can't. No, that would be difficult to do.
Is there any way then to see which part of the U file, which answers refer to a specific questionnaire version?
In the U file, it's not possible because you have to compare different U files. The versions are in time order, which means that version 1 in the manager will always be the first version you actually published, and version 2 will be the one you published afterwards. I think we are working also on allowing to download different versions of the scripts that have been uploaded. But there is no one-to-one relationship with the version number that we use and the E tag that is in that data.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I do think it's possible to download all the questionnaire versions in the demo download set.
Well, then it's basically looking at the timestamp and comparing them by order.
This is an interesting question coming in. Is there any possibility to view the report by version in order to verify the changes?
Currently, no, there isn't. But this is actually not a bad point. So I will see what we can do. Maybe we will have a version filter made available.
Okay, thanks. These were all the questions so far.
Okay. Basically, this concludes this session. It also means that if you have any questions on reporting, please feel free to contact NIPO through your normal means. They will end up on my desk, I'm quite sure, and I will do my best to answer all of them. We have some final remarks on the academies. We will have a next academy session on the KP sampling points in the next week, and on survey metrics in January next year. Thank you all for good luck. I hope you can find some value in the fieldwork reports, and they make your life again slightly easier at least. And thank you for listening to me.
All right, thank you all. Bye-bye.